Is the Williams with the Honda engine are much better in performance point of view, especially in qualifying, and also during the race. I mean, the engine is very powerful, and it's very difficult to compete against them, especially when we have no fuel problem, no fuel consumption problem. In this case, they can turn the boost up, and they use a lot of power that we cannot use.
Williams is in a very good shape. They have a fantastic chassis and fantastic engine. They are impossible to beat the Williams in this moment in Formula One.
I think we're in the ballpark straight away. There's lots of things to take into consideration, and I don't think it's going to be one just on speed alone. There's a few things, a few parameters that come into this sort of game plan. One is the fuel economy, and the weather. I mean, it could rain Sunday.
On the fast tracks, like Silverstone, for example, we will have a better idea of what's going to be the championship during the summer. Because if the Honda has no problem with consumption, I think it's going to be almost impossible to beat them because they have a big advantage on power.
What is your favorite part of the Silverstone circuit?
I think the checkered flag.
And the chicane?
I think the checkered flag.
French Grand Prix last weekend on ESPN. You may recall in my opening I made mention of French Racing Blue, the national colours of that country. Well, the car I'm sitting in right now has got British Racing Green all over it. That's the national colours of this country. This is a Napier. It was built in 1903. It raced on the Isle of Man in 1904. Competitively, it ran right up to 1937 at Brooklands. In 1950, it was taken to the United States of America, to Rena, to the O'Hara collection. Only a few weeks ago, it was brought back here at a cost of $500,000. Now, this is part of Britain's history because this was the first ever Grand Prix car in Britain. Lots has changed since then. We're now at Silverstone, which is a disused airfield. It was here in 1950 that the first World Championship Grand Prix took place in Britain. His Majesty the King came along for that one. Since then, I've managed to win the British Grand Prix a couple of times, and John Bisignano, who works with me on ESPN, well, he's got a record also, because in 1969, he got the lap record here for Formula Ford cars, and who did he take it from? No less than Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yes, it was a proud day, Jackie. Emerson and I have been good friends since '69 because we were really the only non-Brits in the Formula Ford Championship this year. There have been a few bombs dropped around this old war airfield this weekend also, them all coming from the Williams camp. Nigel Mansell has actually dominated this entire season. That was very frustrating to his teammate, Nelson Piquet, someone who doesn't like to be number 2 to anyone. But this weekend, it's Piquet setting the pole position, his first pole position so far this season. Everyone's very interested to see if he can actually beat Mansell here at the British Grand Prix. I think the Brits would be a little upset for the Brazilian to come across first, but that team has set a blistering pace. They are almost 1 second ahead their nearest competitors in the Lotus team.
Well, they were both at it so heavily in Saturday afternoon's final qualifying that both drivers went off the road in their attempt to get that pole position. Nigel Mansell spun out, as also did Nelson Piquet. There's going to be a lot of action, as ever, down in the pits. And as usual, we have someone down there, Walt Stannard.
Thank you, Jackie. Actually, it should be really quiet in the pits today. In fact, typical pit action should look like this. Goodyear talks to all the teams before the race to find out what the situation regarding tires is. The consensus is no pit stops today for tires are going to be required by any of the teams. That means it's going to be like an ARS race or a Super V race, where if you come into the pits, it's pretty well over for you.
And so, in pole position from Brazil, Nelson Piquet, first pole this year for him driving the Cannon Williams Honda. Second, his teammate from the United Kingdom, Nigel Mansell, in front of his own public. Then in third fastest is the Brazilian Ayrton Senna driving the Camo-sponsored Lotus. Then comes the reigning world champion, still searching for that 28th Grand Prix victory, and it could be here, Alain Prost. In fifth fastest, Terry Boutsen from Belgium driving the Ford engine Benetton with his own teammate, also driving the Ford engine Benetton, Theo Fabi, sixth fastest. Detroit should be happy. Seventh fastest, the first of the Ferrari drivers, Michele Alboreto, with his own teammate Gerhard Berger from Austria, is eighth fastest. Ninth is Andrea De Cesare with the Olivetti Bravo. Making up the top 10 is Stefan Johansson with the Marlboro McLaren. And 11th fastest is Riccardo Patrese in the other Olivetti Bravo. Then comes the 12th fastest driver, Nakajima, driving with the Camel Lotus. 13th is Derek Warwick in the US F&G Arrow. His own teammate from Phoenix, Arizona, Eddie Cheevers, is 14th fastest. Nannini in the Minardi is 15th. René Arnoux in the Ligier is 16th. Martin Brundle, a British driver, is 16th in the Zach Speed West. Then comes Christian Danner, his teammate. In 19th position is Campos, and 20th is Caffey. 21st fastest is Philip Alliot in the normally aspirated Ford 3.5-litre engine, the Lola car. 22nd is Philip Streth in the Data General Tyrrell. Dr. Jonathan Palmer, his teammate, is 23rd fastest. He's also driving with that Ford normally aspirated engine. Then comes Ivan Capelli in the Leighton House March, 24th. And finally, 25th is Pascal Favre. Now, there are only 25 cars starting. Inzani, who was in fact taken out of the race for an infringement to the regulations, was disqualified during a practice qualifying incident. So it's 25 cars making the grid of this Grand Prix of Britain. This pre-race report has been brought to you by Ford and your local Ford dealers. Have you driven a Ford lately? The British Grand Prix is being brought to you by BF Goodrich TA radios. Tested tough to make your car perform. And by Quaker State Motor Oil. New Quaker State with QSX keeps your engine cleaner to last longer. And by Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. Silverstone Circuit in the Midlands of England. Today it's slightly overcast with the sun shining through from time to time. The temperature's in its early 70s. There's a nice breeze blowing. Ideal racing conditions. When the sun goes away, it's even just a fraction cool, which of course will help the turbocharged engines here. But I'd say racing conditions could not be better here at Silverstone. The course itself, of course, is an old airfield circuit, and you can see high from our helicopter position here. What you're looking at, in fact, is the joining of two runways. This was a World War II airfield used for Wellingtons and Halifaxes, Blenheims, and all sorts of bombers during the war. They trained their people here and then sent them off to Germany. It was after the war that motor racing came here. As you can see now, Riccardo Patrese preparing himself, giving a little wave. Hello, Mum, he says. This, of course, is going to 34 different countries around the world. The telecast going out to ever-increasing numbers of nations that take Grand Prix racing. ESPN, of course, getting into America for that. And I have an American sitting beside me, John Bisignano.
Thank you, Jackie. Of course, Silverstone is one of those classical names in motor racing. Silverstone, Brands Hatch. And Jackie, why don't you do the course description here? You've set a few track records here yourself.
From the checkered flag, you go along to Copse Corner. It's a right-hand bend. It's a corner that I've actually gone off the road on, which I wouldn't want to boast about right now.
Right into the TV camera,
That's correct. It's a third gear corner. Then you go towards Maggots, which is just a left-hand kick that's taken in 6th gear before you get to Beckett's, which is another third gear corner. Then you accelerate through Chapel Curve, heading down Hanger Straight to Stowe Corner. Stowe is the name of a very well-known school that I mentioned later on, and that's something that England's got a strong heritage for. Then you accelerate along after going through Stowe in 4th gear into 5th gear towards Club Corner. You hold 5th gear in Club Corner, very fast nowadays, before going up to Abbey Curve, engaging 6th gear again. That's a 6-speed gearbox, heading towards, at around 200 miles an hour, the new Woodcut chicane. It's a very sharp little left and right-hand bend, very tricky, and go into 1st gear round there. Now, in fact, in practice, Nigel Mansell had a problem in this very chicane, and you're looking at the chicane at the top right-hand side of your screen there. That's the last part of that chicane. The starting grid here at Silverstone's on a little bit of a curve, in fact. It's not on a straight piece of road. That's the tail end of the starting grid you're looking at, because this is a clockwise racetrack. As I said, it's almost pancake flat. It's almost billiard table surface also, and beautifully looked after. So this is ESPN's coverage of the British Grand Prix. The start will just be coming along, and it promises to be a very exciting start. The first corner here at Silverstone, historically, has been something of great interest. These cars, it's not the start of the race. They're moving off on their pace lap around this 2.969 mile airfield circuit. They'll do about 26 gear changes every lap. It's a track with a lot of history about it. It was first raced in 1950 as a Grand Prix, and it was the European Grand Prix that year, won by Mr. Farino, driving an Alfa Romeo, a 159 Alfetta. As the cars go around there, the only American, incidentally, was Peter Revson in 1973. As the mechanics horde back to the pits, let's look at this new chicane, which Nigel Mansell, who of course is a British driver, has tested here a few times, and he should have got it worked out. But yesterday he had a little problem. He came down towards the chicane, and this is a replay, and look what happened. The back end went out, he went across the grass, and then he went into the gravel pit. Now, Nigel accelerated across the gravel pit, could easily have got stuck, put on too much power with his almost 1,000 horsepower Honda engine before getting back through the fences. He looks like he's in some obstacle course. He rejoins the pit lane and goes in. This was in the final minutes of qualifying, while he was trying to wrest the pole position from Piquet. Now we're in the car of Nakajima, driving the Camel Lotus as he goes round Stowe Corner, heading towards Club, as the other car in front of him starts to weave again to get his tyre temperatures up. Keep in mind, in the race they'll be doing probably 165 miles an hour. The leading cars coming up to this little chicane. John, ideal racing conditions?
I would think so, Jackie. It's quite cool. It's good for the tires and good for the turbos. There's been a lot of discussion about tires. Some people are going to try and go this whole race without a tire stop, as Walt alluded to earlier in the program. But I think if things get very, very tight, the biggest problem is going to be on fuel. And it's a frustrating thing for drivers to be out there looking at their gauges and not being able to go as fast as they can. I know that the Arrows team started their cars at 3.7 boost, and after only 10 laps they'll be able to, or they'll have to turn them down to 3.5 boost. That's 3.5 bars of boost to have enough fuel to finish this British Grand Prix.
And of course the normally aspirated engines that would normally expect to do well on fuel consumption, even they are running tight for fuel. The cars now coming up to form this grid. Nigel Mansell, remember, is in second fastest position, not pole. Nelson Piquet of Brazil has got that position. A very partisan crowd. Mansell's been getting a lot of publicity. As we look again at Nakajima's car, he's well behind in the grid.
One small thing we should mention is that the people actually towards the back of this grid are going to be starting around a corner, something that has given a bit of confusion in the past. And also on that first corner, the competition between those two Williamses will be tremendous. Up in the lights, Jackie.
The lights are up there. We're waiting on all the cars coming to a stop to prepare for this first lap. 5 right-handers, 4 left-handers, 9 corners in total. We're waiting for the red to go on, as are the drivers. Look at the curve there.
Red is on, Jackie.
The red is on, ready to go, and they're off. And Mansell got a real great start, but then Piquet's got acceleration, but Alain Prost come alongside. Alain Prost looking towards, he's got the lead. Alain Prost driving the Marlboro McLaren takes the lead. They've got through the first corner in good shape, it seems. No coming together, very fast circuit this Silverstone. And there's a Williams passing Prost already. It looked like Piquet got through there. Is it Piquet or is it Mansell? But one of them into Beckett's corner now, accelerating hard in third gear, going towards Chapel Curve before Hangar Straight, where they'll be reaching speeds of about 204 miles an hour. All clear so far, and another Williams is surely going to pass with its turbo power. It gets past Prost. Then Ayrton Senna's tucking in behind Alain Prost.
It is Piquet in the lead with Prost now pushed back to third. Those Honda powers are just absolutely fantastic down these long straightaways. And Prost is getting passed again.
No, he was just moving into a piece of air that would stop, I think, Senna from getting through. Nakajima is well up, incidentally, with our camera car.
An excellent start.
As they now come out of Club Corner, go into Chapel, and head, and here's the shot of Nakajima on this first lap as they come into the chicane. We'll try and give you the call as they come through past our commentary position on this very first lap. As they go through the chicane, accelerate out 65 laps of racing. And they're coming past the pits now. It's Nelson Piquet, followed by Nigel Mansell, then Prost, then Senna, then Boutsen, then Alboreto. They're all up there in that first lap. A clean race so far.
The Benetton Ford seemed to be breaking away also just a bit. That Ford power showing itself here on the long straightaways, but Prost seems to have a bit of a problem now.
Well, Senna's got past.
Senna has gone past Prost, and he actually seems to be holding up the Benettons.
Well, no, I think what's happened is that Prost, again, intelligence personified. It could be that he's still not prepared to turn that boost up far enough, and Alboreto's looking at Boutsen. If we just have a look at this group coming through here, then you have behind him there's Prost there in the red and white car, then Boutsen, then the Ferrari of Alboreto. They come down to Stowe Corner, and there's the Ferrari going at Boutsen. That's Michele Alboreto doesn't make it. Then comes Theo Fabi. He's tucked in there. He's in good shape. The Ford power unit working well here.
Well, as you said yesterday, Jackie, this is a beautifully magnificent racetrack, green all the way around. It's been raining here, but now the sun, as you can see, is shining bright, coming up through this very tight chicane. The drivers really don't like this part of the track underneath the Daily Express Bridge, and on lap 3 it is.
Piquet, Mansell, big gap. And then Ayrton Senna with Prost tight with him. Then Boutsen, then Alboreto tight. Fabi, then Patrese, no, De Cesaris, then Yakin, Nakamura, Nakajima, and then actually Johansson's just past Nakajima.
And right there under braking, it was Alboreto going across, going past Boutsen in the Benetton. Back to the in-car camera, we see Nakajima. It looks like he's coming up on Johansson. If Nakajima is giving Johansson a battle, the Lotuses certainly seem to be in good racing trim here, right out to the verge on the exit of that corner, just drifting the car right out to the very corner. But we see Prost fighting back, having a look. These two drivers, again, we don't want to kill this point, but they have to look at those fuel gauges. But the Honda Williams are long gone. Replay the start.
And look at the start that Nigel Mansell gets. I don't think he jumped it, but he certainly...
he was ready.
He got it right. Now, on the other hand, Senna made a very poor start. And then you can see Nakajima made a good start. The two Benetton cars did very well. Boutsen made a great start. Then look at Prost on the outside there. He really went along the outside, got through the first corner cleanly first. And then, of course, Piquet tucked in with the superior power of the Honda engine, accelerates there, gets through before, and look at that, Prost tries to cut him off. In fact, Piquet almost goes up on the grass there as he goes through that left-hand curve, which is taken flat out for these cars.
I think the acceleration of the Williams even may have been a bit of a surprise to Prost, the way he was just able to power right by him, accelerating out of that turn 1.
Again, we're seeing incredible superiority here by the two Williams cars with their Honda engines. They've just run away from the opposition, and keep in mind that Ayrton Senna also has a Honda engine, but he's being pressed very hard by Prost. I don't think his electrically controlled active suspension is doing quite as good a job as he would like it to do here at Silverstone. So the British Grand Prix is well underway now. They've completed 3 laps of this race. It's Piquet, Mansell, Senna, Prost.
Well, of course, Prost is someone who has been laying back or lying back in many Grand Prix, just waiting for his time. And up against the wall, we have Arnoux getting out of the Lotto Ligier. We don't know how hard he's come in contact with the guardrail, but it certainly looked like his race day was over, and a tremendous battle going on here. Prost is pushing, but the Ferrari is just sitting there with Alboreto. Ferrari being frustrated all year long with their on-track performance. Certainly the Italians, the fans are not happy with. Let's see Prost out on the outside, on the brakes. Does he get through? We have a smoking march back there, but please let us see. We have a fire on the march. We have a tremendous blaze coming out from underneath the March chassis, only made in Bicester, about 20 miles from here. But Prost did get by. I'm sorry we missed it. We only would have gone away for a car on fire. But Prost did make it past the Brazilian there. Prost is ready to go racing here. He can't race with those two people, but he's certainly ready to race for that third position. But Alboreto is the story right here, Jack.
Alboreto certainly showing great encouragement by their performance. As we see one of the Lotuses, it's Nakajima, or is it Minardi? It's the Minardi of Nannini coming in to the pits. That's early pit for him. There's Alain Prost taking command. A real threat now comes to Ayrton Senna by Alboreto and the Ferrari. The British Grand Prix under ideal racing conditions. Piquet leads, and we'll be back. We're back at the British Grand Prix being held at Silverstone in the Midlands of England. Nelson Piquet of Brazil is in the lead. The Williams teammate, the Canon Williams Honda of Nigel Mansell. Now he lives in the Isle of Man, but he comes from Birmingham, which is no more than about 30 or 40 miles from this circuit. So he's got a lot of fans right now in here. Both of the Williams cars, again, very dominant. Remember, they finished first and second in the French Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell, that man there, is looking to win here. Remember, he's the defending champion. He won at Brands Hatch last year. Keep in mind that at Brands Hatch last year, Nelson Piquet stole the pole position from him also, as he did this year. So really there's a needle match going on. There's a big suggestion the two of them are not getting on well in the team. There's a lot of discontent. There's a suggestion that Piquet is even going to leave the Williams team at the end of this.
Well, Jackie, I want to make a comment on that. There's always a great deal of pride within a team as far as who's the #1 driver. And although Frank Williams says that both of our drivers are #1, the competition within a team, no matter where you're in the championship or where you're on the grid, is absolutely fierce. Now, these two drivers are not only fighting for the World Championship, they're fighting for the #1 position within their own team. And Nelson Piquet is a gentleman who does not like to be second to anyone. Past world champion, and Nigel Mansell, frustrated by the World Championship being taken away from him after 5 Grand Prix victories last year. A very deserving victor, voted Sportsman of the Year here in England. His fans, everywhere around here, his t-shirts, hats, blouses, jeans, everything says Nigel Mansell on it. And historically, there have always been some very good combinations, Jackie, of teams and working together. Ronnie Peterson and Mario Andretti worked very well together. Prost and Lotto worked very well together. It has to be a detriment to the overall performance of the team to have drivers in such fierce competition. Maybe they're not giving information to one another and so forth.
Well, I believe that there should be harmony within a team, but of course competition, it's human after all to want to do your best and to win. And I think both of those drivers are very keen to do so. Nelson Piquet is being paid a lot more money at the present time than Nigel Mansell, and there's a little bit of a wrinkle there in its own. Maybe a little bit of ego that Nigel feels he's faster and yet is not getting paid as much. But of course, when Nigel Mansell was taken on by Williams, he was not the big star that Nelson Piquet was, 3 times a world champ, 2 times a world champion.
Exactly.
And therefore, I guess you're allowed to get a lot more money. And of course, Williams did desperately want Piquet. We're looking at another Brazilian right now. That is, of course, Ayrton Senna. He's being pressed a little bit, but not as hard as earlier on by Michele Alboreto, the Ferrari driver. Incidentally, Alboreto has tied up himself next year to drive for Ferrari. It looks like that looks like Alio. It looks like Alio is out with the normally aspirated Lola car, the 3.5-litre Ford engine. Looks like he's an early exit. That gives Ken Tyrrell's team. And we've got another fire. Who is that?
Quite a large turbo fire, engine fire going there. It looked like it was right in front of one of the Lotuses. It could have been Prost. There's no way from that view that we could
That's the
tell
Benetton.
exactly.
No, it's Patrese.
All
that
the
whole
flame.
car is in flames.
Andrea Di Cesaris, totally on fire.
Yep.
Get to a fire marshal and get out of the car, Andrea. Don't waste any time.
He knows where to park, doesn't he?
He does know
Look at
where to
that.
park. No deep rest now. Out of the car. And of course, the British marshals are considered the best in the world. We're trying to identify the exact part of the course he's on, and we think he was leading in underneath the Daily Mail bridge. But certainly the Brabham, as we say, going up in smoke.
Well, he had a fire in France also, De Cesare, so really the BMW engine in the Brabham obviously is having a little bit of a trouble.
It was totally alight, Jackie. It wasn't just a turbo fire. The whole back end of the car was on fire.
I think that he must have spread some oil somewhere. It was black smoke as well as lots of flame, and that would suggest that it was a heavy oil fire. Alain Prost is the man in the center of the picture. Keep in mind he's looking, and there you see the smoke of De Cesare's over there as Alain Prost goes round Beckett's, and Piquet passes one of the slower cars, one of the normally aspirating AGS cars. And of course this is an amazing performance yet again by this very British team. Frank Williams, as one of the great men of motor racing, runs this team. Walt Stanner had an opportunity to ask him about tactics before the race.
Frank, you've got your two drivers on the front row. What are the team orders?
Essentially very few. The first one is win, and the second is don't crash while you're doing it. What I mean is that I don't want one to take the other off, and I don't think they'll do that because they're actually both very professional drivers.
Okay. How about fuel?
Well, that's the voice of Frank Williams. He's the mastermind. He's done it so well. He's been constructor world champion many times. He came from very difficult beginnings in motor racing, was a driver himself, drove in Formula Junior, a man that I've known for many years, a great character, a very nice gentleman. He's done it well. And I think both of the drivers can be very fortunate to be driving such a well-organized team as he has. The chief mechanic of the Williams team was a mechanic with me at BRM. Dobbin Chalice is his name. He was the mechanic of Graham Hill as well as myself. The long hanger straight at Silverstone, completely flat racetrack here, as Nigel Mansell went through, and there Alain Prost goes through. Fourth gear corner. It's Silverstone, it's the British Grand Prix. We'll be back. At the British Grand Prix, you can see the race positions there. There's number 6 is leading the race, followed by number 5, and that's the new Williams car. Then Alain Prost, of course, he's in number 1. As the Williams come towards Cox Corner, passing the pits, there is Nigel Mansell closing a tiny bit on Piquet. Keep in mind, they've got two things to look out for. They've got to keep their tyres cool. It's not a question of Goodyear having a wear problem here. The tyres will see them through easily on wear. The problem will be how aggressively these drivers attack the road surface. If they overheat their tyres, the tyre performance will go off and they will have to come in to replenish those tyres. The other thing they've got to look for, as John said earlier, was that of fuel. They've got to be very gentle on the gas pedal because it's on the limit here. If they go too hard, they are going to guzzle gas and they're not going to make the full duration of these 65 racing laps.
Shades of San Marino, Jackie, where in the last 5 laps we think everything is totally wrapped up in cool and the lead can be exchanged 6 times in 5 laps. So they look like they have a dominating lead at the moment, but if they have to slow to follow that meter that's placed on their dashboard that gives them how many laps they can go. If they're over their lappage, they have to slow down. If they're under it, they can go racing as fast as they want. But right now, Nelson Piquet doesn't seem to have too many problems as he goes by one of the back markers. We have clocks on that gap, and it is slightly being reduced, but I think Piquet is in a very comfortable position right now. We should also just quickly mention that if you notice on the McLaren cars, there's no Marlboro, and on the Lotus cars, there's no Camel. It's not that the sponsorship has changed or the West Zach Speed, no West. They used to put East on the car in situations such as England, where under an agreement with the cigarette companies, there is no broadcast advertising, so those places are now blank on the car.
Incidentally, Stefan Johansson has got himself up to 6th position. That's a very good situation for him. He's done well. He had a fairly poorish start and has come along well. There you see the Senna yellow car, then Alboreto, then Johansson. Look how Johansson is catching Alboreto. Stefan Johansson, the young man from Sweden.
It's really the battle for 4th place, Jack.
It is, and he's closing that gap all of the time, so he's putting pressure on. That means that the McLaren is handling very well. To me, the Lotus is not handling with its active suspension around this fast circuit. They average about 150 miles an hour around here, so therefore it just means that this car is it's not doing the job.
Well, you know, we talked to Senna about that. They were so pleased with the active suspension on the slower circuits, Detroit, Monaco, where the average speeds, they're in the 80s, 82 miles an hour and so, and they really did not know exactly what the active suspension would do on these ultra-fast 140, 150 mile an hour average circuits, and it has been a disappointment. Now, remember, he has the same power that the Cannon cars have, the Cannon Williams cars has, but he's just not able to make that chassis work as well as the Williams are.
Well, I think that's what he's suffering from right now. There's the Williams pit, always prepared, looking just in case. You know, you can pick up a little piece of debris, you can pick up a nail, you can have a puncture, and if that happens, you want to be prepared. There will be no warning. So therefore, there you see Nigel Mansell creaming himself round. That was Copse, and here's someone coming in. It looks like Nannini. It does. It is Nannini. It looks like he's got a turbo that's causing him a little inconvenience.
He was in the pits earlier, but did go out, but it looks like he's parking it now.
It looks like the end of the day for him. Derek Warwick's well up, as is Eddie Cheever. Incidentally, Theo Fabi's dropped back. I'm looking as Piquet goes through, then Nigel Mansell follows him. We look down the track for quite a long gap before passing our commentary position comes Alain Prost. And that's quite a long way back. Prost, I think, is pacing himself very well. Following that, of course, is Ayrton Senna, who's dropped right back. Alboreto stayed with them, and of course Johansson in sixth position has closed up considerably.
Johansson's looking for a result, Jackie. He thinks that his position within the McLaren team might be a bit under siege due to the fact that he certainly has one of the most proven chassis and engine combinations in Formula One, and Stefan really hasn't performed the way that he was hoping so. But the man performing up front, going for the World Championship, is Nigel Mansell. We asked him how tough it was to be the #1 man here in England. Nigel Mansell, this is the most relaxed I've seen you today. The hordes of reporters and crowds around you. You're sitting here with your daughter, Chloe. The pressure, does it get to you in the cockpit of the car?
No, not at all, really. I mean, when you're a professional in any sport, you do your job under whatever pressures are there. And, I mean, the pressure here this weekend, being my home Grand Prix, is probably greater than some of the foreign races, but it's just as enjoyable, if not more so.
But a victory would be a little bit more sweet here.
I mean, any race, let's be honest about it, anywhere in the world is worth winning. But obviously your home Grand Prix is perhaps just that little bit more special.
You're looking at Nakajima driving around there presently in 8th position, and you can see the cloud base there. It's some angry little clouds, and then blue here. Now, Walt Stanner, are you in the pits?
Yes. Jackie, I've got Gerhard Berger with me. It's been a short day for you, Gerhard. What happened?
I had a problem on the start, and then I had a problem with Warwick. I had to go over the curbs, and I think I destroyed something on the car, and then I went off.
So you had to walk back in. So you had to walk back in, and good luck.
Well, a very disheartened Gerhard Berger, who's still looking for some success on his move to Ferrari. Ferrari have been a sad case this year. They've had no success at all to speak of. They're hungrily looking for success. Frankly, they've got all the money in the world. They've got the same tires as everyone else. They've got two very good drivers. I'm afraid it has to go down to administration and the way that the team is put together. They've bought John Barnard, the designer of the Chaparral that took the pole at Indianapolis, who designed the McLaren Formula One car. All of those things he's done well. Now he's going to be with Ferrari. Can he turn them around? I don't know, but he'll have to do something fast because they're not doing well, particularly when a team like Williams are doing so well just now for Piquet and for Mansell. The British Grand Prix. Well, we're back at the British Grand Prix, where the gap between Nelson Piquet and Nigel Mansell has closed to 1.9 seconds. Very close indeed. Let me go over the leaderboard again for you. Nelson Piquet leads. Nigel Mansell is second. Third is Alain Prost. Fourth is Ayrton Senna. Fifth is Alboreto, Michele Alboreto in the Ferrari. Sixth is Stefan Johansson, as the Williams team are still prepared, are still standing by. Terry Bootson's in seventh position. Nakajima in the Camel Honda engined Lotus is 8th. Then comes Patrese with Derek Warwick in 10th, and I think Eddie Cheevers and Nats Johansson. He's out of the car. He's had a problem. Turbos on fire for Stefan Johansson. A very solid sixth position, catching up Alboreto, incidentally. And incidentally, Nigel Mansell has now done a new lap record here because of the new chicane. This will be a lap record of 1:12.987. So he's piling on the pressure to Nelson Piquet, his own teammate. That takes him round the Silverstone circuit at an average speed of 146.443 miles an hour as the Marlboro McLaren of Stefan Johansson gets pushed away. He's had a wretchedly unhappy season since the Belgium Grand Prix when he finished in second place, and that was a 1-2 for the Marlboro McLaren team.
Very fine young man, deserves to have a good ride like the Marlboro McLaren drive, of course, is. As we see our leader come around, Christian Danner, the German driver in the West Jacques Speed. We talked with Nelson Piquet here at the British Grand Prix about this sensational event.
The car is capable of winning everywhere, and I think the car being very good from the beginning of the season. I didn't have very good luck all through the season, and I finished four times second in 5 races that I ran, and I'll try to do something better here.
I've never really understood how someone can talk so slowly and drive so fast as Nelson Piquet, but he certainly turns the boost up once he sits into that cockpit, Jackie.
He's a very calm and collected man in a car, although he has what I call had brain fade from time to time, where his head seems to jump out of gear. I thought he did it at the French Grand Prix. There he was in a position to win, and he allowed the car to spin out on an unforced error. He also allowed the engine to stall when it came into the pits, and then he seemed to be fast asleep when he was overtaken. And look how close he's getting now to Nigel Mansell.
Let's talk about this interval a bit. It was up to 3.5 seconds. It's down to 1.6 seconds now. Mansell is definitely closing on his teammate. He has him in his sights, but we've heard that there is a vibration in the back of Mansell's car from Lee Gogg, the director of racing here for Formula One from Goodyear. They have it on the radio, the fact that Mansell is picking up a vibration, but I'll tell you, if I had that kind of a vibration and setting a track records lap back to back, I would not complain too much.
Well, vibrations can be dangerous things because they tend to loosen a lot of things. A vibration is not just something like a weight coming off one of the wheels, a balance weight. It can cause other things. It can cause little joints to go. It can cause exhaust pipes to break, and we've already had that experience with the Williams car. It definitely happened to Nigel Mansell in the Monaco Grand Prix. Those kind of things at the speed and the revs that those engines are traveling at certainly can have an effect. By the way, up into 6th position because of the Johansson problem comes Riccardo Patrese driving the Olivetti Brabham. So the lead is still being held by Nelson Piquet, although that lead is being shortened slightly by Mansell. The British Grand Prix will continue.
Going around this track in the yellow Camel Lotus, going by again Christian Danner from Brazil. Ayrton Senna won the Formula 3 championship of England several years ago, and that's what led him into Formula One. Question of the week is something that Formula One drivers are not too used to, European drivers, in fact, but they are getting used to ESPN questions of the week. If your Formula One car was not a single-seater, it was a two-seater, and you could take a passenger with you around this circuit, who would you like to take for a ride?
I honestly think I would like to take my wife. You know, my wife has followed me in my racing career now for 15 years. She's never sat in a racing car at speed, never driven around a racing circuit. And I know that she really would like to, so I think I'd love to see my wife Rhonda in the car beside me.
I would like to take all the journalists. You know why? Because...
scare them to death, that's why.
No, not to scare them.
To get even with them.
For sure they will be scared, but I mean, sometimes they talk and they write a little bit of us, you know. Not bad all the time, but for sure, but sometimes they don't understand very well, like that they could understand. But maybe we have no more journalists in this case.
Enzo Ferrari to show him our power.
Marco Piccinini.
Marco Piccinini. You think you could teach him something, or it would be a good experience for him?
No, because maybe when he protests, when we are too slow, just to find how difficult it is to make a good lap.
How about your lovely American girlfriend?
She'd probably get a heart attack, I should think.
Probably the designer of my racing car, so he could see exactly how bad or how good is the car.
My God. Who would I take along in the second seat in my Formula One car? I could think of that two ways. One, somebody I'd like to get even with. And the other one, someone I'd like to impress. I really wouldn't know. One person I wouldn't bring my wife, for example. I would never bring her because I think she'd divorce me the next day. I would like to bring the engineer along. I'd like to bring Ross Byrne along to show him, you know, what the car does so he has a better feel for it.
It's easy to answer because Greg will be with me tomorrow here at Silverstone, so he'd come and join me.
Greg
Norman.
I would take somebody like you, by example, like commentators who always say bad things about the drivers, how bad they drive, how many mistakes they do. So I would take one of the commentators to go and show him the way.
To get even?
Yeah.
Maybe you, to see your underpants.
Thank you.
See your underpants getting dirty.
Well, I have no doubt that that would happen with certain television commentators being driven around this racetrack by the man who's leading it right now. There might be different appreciation of the skills required. I think Alain Prost got it right. Nelson Piquet still leads. He's opened up the gap on Nigel Mansell, however. Just a little minute ago, we saw the gap was up to 3.4 seconds. That was a lot from the 1.5 seconds it was going to be. It does look now that it's even moved up to 4.5 seconds. Now, this is a big difference, and it's either Nigel Mansell is backing off or the performance of his car is slacking off, but that's significant. Prost is still within gap, but it was interesting. 5 or 6 laps ago, they opened up a gap on Alain Prost. They opened up 5 seconds in 5 laps, so the pace was fast and furious. We've got 7 cars out of this race in quarter distance, by the way, and that's Terry Boutsen with the Ford-engined Benetton car. Did very well in qualifying, qualified 5th fastest. Theo Fabi was 6th fastest, but that has not come along on the race so far. It would be very important for these Benetton cars to finish. They've had a little trouble with mechanical reliability, and it would be rather nice for them to complete a full Grand Prix. The 2 cars are running close now. Now, Nigel Mansell really is dropping back a little bit, and into our commentary position, incidentally, has come a great white shark, a man called Greg Norman, who did come to see Nigel, who's a great mate of his. Nigel, of course, is very keen in golf, and I think now plays to about a 2 handicap sort of golf factor. Now, I don't know whether our microphone's working now, but we've managed to put one on the head of Greg Norman. Greg, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
Great. Well, you're live to America.
Hi, back in the States.
You're a keen enthusiast of motorsport.
Very much so, Jackie. I think I've been a frustrated driver all my life, and on the freeways, I do get myself in a little bit of problems, but it's a great thrill. I think there's a little similarity between golf and motor car racing, except the speed.
Well, let's look at this, because Nigel Mansell looks like he's going to come into the pits. That's the report that we have, so we're going to see that. And, of course, since he's such a pal of yours, we'll see what happens here. He's been having a vibration, he says. That's Piquet. He's continuing round the chicane. If Nigel is coming in, he'll have to dive to the right to get into the... And there's the Williams team waiting for him. They've been prepared, but it looks like he's continuing on this lap. So he stayed out, but Nigel was getting a roughness, it said, in the rear end of the car, a vibration that was coming through the radio. Lee Gogg of Goodyear had picked up that information. Nigel was speaking to you a lot about the race, obviously. You spent the last 2 days together. Fairly relaxed at the beginning of the race, Greg?
Very much so, Jackie. He was very confident in the car, and, you know, mechanical failures are really the thing you worry about in this sport. And yesterday he was happy with the way everything was performing.
Well, you, of course, competed in the celebrity race at the Australian Grand Prix weekend. We saw that. And, of course, coming from down under, it was the right place to have a go. You enjoyed it?
I loved it, Jackie. Yeah, it was a great thrill, and I've never done it before. And Nigel gave me a few tips, as well as a few other teachers down in Australia. And what a great thrill. It's as good as winning a golf tournament.
Greg, one thing I wanted to ask you, is Nigel Mansell as competitive in playing golf as he is out on the racetrack?
Very much so. And, you know, he drives a golf ball just as straight as he drives a car.
I wish I could say that. Well, Greg, you're here at the British Grand Prix, of course, preparing for the British Open, and we at ESPN will be covering that on the Thursday-Friday play of this big tournament that we, of course, take great pride on. It goes around in Scotland again this year, and we're very pleased that it's a links course, of course, and the British Isles must be nice to come and play. Dodgy weather, of course.
Well, definitely, Jackie. It's basically my first circuit I ever played up here outside of Australia, so I feel a great affinity for this country, and I enjoy their golf courses. Muirfield is probably one of the best golf courses we play of all the links courses.
But you might quite like Turnberry, don't you? Because you, of course, are the defending champion.
Yeah, Turnberry was a great golf course, and we had some very severe weather that week, and I believe the weatherman says we're going to have a tough week next week as well.
Well, that's severe weather for you guys that run in the sun, but in Scotland, that was a good weekend.
Oh, yeah, 50-mile-an-hour winds at 30 degrees. That's good.
Well,
it makes for good clay pigeon shooters, Jackie.
That's right. Great golfers. You keep the ball low and you shoot fast. Now, Nigel's coming into the pits. And no, he's braking again. That's Piquet, braking for the chicane. A first gear corner, accelerating hard, 800 or 900 horsepower. And look, Nigel seems to have closed up again. By now, he's into fifth gear. As he passes that start-finishing line, he's already doing 168 miles an hour. And it does look like he has tightened up a little bit. It's, of course, a question. Maybe his tyres went off just a wee bit. Maybe he had been driving it hard because he had got a lap record. Piquet had answered back with a new lap record. Right now, he's done another new lap record. Nigel Mansell's fastest so far at 112.473, averaging 174.5 miles an hour. He's closed the gap to 2.3 as Alain Prost comes into the pits. Alain Prost in the pits, the present world champion, looking for his 28th Grand Prix victory. He's changing his tyres, having his visor cleaned. Walt, you're down there.
Okay, Jackie, it's just been a four-tire stop in 8.2 seconds. He's quick, clean, and he's away.
Well, that was an angry pit stop for him. I don't think he can be pleased by this because we expected him. Now, this is a big break for the two Williams cars, although an 8.15 seconds, it's 29 laps into a 65-lap race. So, therefore, he now has in fresh rubber, and if he's going to make a move, he has to make it now. But, of course, you lose a lot of time. It's not just the 8.15 seconds that you've got to consider. Is how long it takes you to get into the pits and then how long to accelerate out. So that leaves the two Williams cars now a considerable gap before anyone else. In fact, something like 29 seconds that they have in the lead, which is a very healthy amount considering that the lap itself is only 1 minute and 12 seconds. So it's going to be a bit fast and furious out there. Nakajima, there in the picture, is going to be lapped by Nelson Piquet, and you can see how close Nelson and Nigel are right now. The British fans obviously keen for Nigel to win.
Well, Jackie, the speed here by this Williams team is absolutely outstanding. They are going around the sixth-place car. So actually, the Williams car will soon be lapping the sixth-place car, so only another 3 cars are on the same lap as they are out of this 25-car grid. Nakajima going around this corner, shooting on up underneath the Daily Express bridge. That bridge is actually rushing at that driver. He's not just going underneath it. And the Williams are right up underneath him, coming out of that chicane. But Mansell is really closed on him. For sure, he's going to go by him right past the pit straightaway. He's right up on his exhaust. Let's see it.
Piquet missed a gear, and accelerating out of the chicane, Piquet missed a gear. Nigel took advantage of it and closed right up. You saw that closure absolutely rush up on him, and that was because I'm sure Nelson Piquet missed a gear. Now, it is that kind of unforced error. Of course, he's under great pressure right now, but it was an error made by the driver, I anticipate. Now, I'm saying that with no inside knowledge of what happened in the cockpit, but it did seem to me that's the case. Now, watch Nakajima. We might even get a picture for our viewers in the car. Now, this is a replay as they accelerate out of the chicane. Look how close he got. It looks like he was fumbling between second and third or fourth gear, and he just missed it. Now, there's Nakajima. Now, he's let Piquet through. Now, you'll watch him looking in his mirror when he gets out of Cobb's corner. Look, he's looking in the mirror. Now there he's looking to the left. He's taking the line, so he's holding up Nigel a wee bit. Nigel's looking for a way to get past, and this is coming into the chicane again. Nigel will get him on the way in. He's done him.
Blue flags were waving for Nakajima there on several flag corners, stations around the circuit. He certainly knew that the drivers were behind him, but he cannot actually disappear off that racing line. He's battling, he's trying to maintain his sixth-place position there. And I'm certainly sure that he was well aware that these two people are racing for first place. It would have been nice if he would have pulled over and let him by.
But very frustrating, obviously, for Nigel, who thought he had a chance to take the lead there, and suddenly he came into that traffic with Nakajima, keeping in mind that Nakajima also has the Honda engine, so he wasn't giving anything away on the straight. Walt Stanner, you're down in the pits.
Yeah, Jackie, down here in the pits 2 laps ago, they expected Nigel to come in. He didn't come in. There was aggravation, it looks like, angry words going back and forth amongst the crew members. Then Piquet came by the pits, waved, and we don't really know what's happening. Earlier, there was some discussion that maybe Mansell wouldn't come into the pits unless Piquet came in first, and they're waiting to see which one of the two of them will come in first to make sure that nobody gets an advantage.
Well, in the meantime, we'll just have to wait and see. The gap has remained much the same. It could be, of course, that the Williams are looking at a normal tire stop as well. A tire stop is the decision of the driver. Only he knows if the tires are working in best condition or not. It could be that Piquet feels that his are not working to full performance. So it's a question of seeing how well they go. Piquet's fastest lap has just been completed. We're with ESPN, and we'll be back. We're back here at the British Grand Prix watching the two Williams car. The car you're looking at right now was, of course, that of Nigel Mansell. Coming towards us is Nelson Piquet. Greg Norman, the great golfer, is in our commentary position here. Greg spent the last 2 days with Nigel Mansell, and he just whispered to me something just now that you might like to repeat to our audience over there, Greg.
Well, Jackie, Nigel's adjusted his wings to a little less downforce, so therefore in the corners, Piquet's got a better cornering capability because he's got better downforce, and Nigel's just sacrificing that a bit to control his, conserve his fuel load, so later on down the line he can up his boost and hopefully catch Piquet if he's too far behind.
Well, that's a very good point. Clearly, race drivers...
It's so good, Jackie. I think he's after our jobs. We got to watch this fella, you know?
I rather feel he's making just a fraction too much money hitting the wee ball. Okay, so here we go. We've still got the fastest lap being put up by Piquet, 1.12.404, 147.5 miles an hour.
I think something we want to bring out is that the Williams pit definitely wants these cars to come in. They're actually signaling them to come in and get new tires or look at that vibration or do something. They've been set up for a pit stop for the last few laps, and there they are sitting there waiting. Where's the car? Where's our driver? But if you remember the Spanish Grand Prix, Jackie, when Mansell stayed out there, they say it's the driver's final decision to come in or not, but he stayed out there last year, and that was that very close finish with Senna, where everyone said if he would have come in when his pit called him in, got the tires changed, he would have had an easy victory. It's easy to say that now, but the point about the downforce, you can see that Piquet is not using as much track in the corners as Mansell is, and Mansell is letting that car drift all the way out, just the way in France it was reversed, where Mansell wasn't using all the track. Into the pits. Walt Stanner, take the pit stop.
Okay, I don't know what's going on down here exactly. They changed a set of tires and they quickly jumped around, and the crew chief was saying Mansell, Mansell, Mansell. They changed the tires and we're ready, and here comes Mansell in. Now we're getting the clock on him as he comes to a stop. Stop.
Well, we're looking at our clock up here, and it shows a 9.45 second stop, so it may be that the clock's got out of sync with the mechanics. 9.5 seconds is quite fast, but it's not sensationally fast. Nigel, however, is now in fresh rubber and is in a position technically to go faster. So that, from his point of view, is a very useful time. And of course, he's come in later in the race than Alain Prost did. So for the remainder of this British Grand Prix, he's probably set up a wee bit better than Prost. And of course, the big question now is, will Nelson Piquet be able to hold everything together as one of the Ocello cars looks like it's caught a turbo fire? Piquet coming towards us. Yes, Who is that, Cafe? It is
Jackie,
Cafe.
it is Cafe. Parked right next to another vehicle there. We've certainly seen an awful lot of smoke this British Grand Prix, that's for sure.
The British Grand Prix, of course, attended this year by His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent, a great enthusiast of motorsport. He and his brother, the Duke of Kent, are the only two members of the royal family who I can honestly say are very keen on motoring. The other members of the family are very fond of equestrian events. Princess Anne, of course, was European champion of cross-country events in 1971. Her husband, Captain Martin Phillips, gold medalist in the Olympics on more than one occasion. The difference, incidentally, between Nigel Mansell and Nelson Piquet now is 28.367 seconds. Now, keep that in mind, that the pit stop was only a fraction over 9 seconds, but the difference on the lap now has opened up to 28 seconds. That, of course, would be eliminated almost if Piquet came into the pits.
Well, of course, this entrance to the pit at Silverstone is a very slow one. The cars have to go down to virtually 0 miles an hour to enter the pit. The Brits wanting to be extremely careful with the people in the pits. One of the cars flashing by, they're at speed, but here is the Ferrari pit, and they seem all ready to go too. So it's definitely the faster cars are going to have to take on rubber during this British Grand Prix.
Well, of course, we saw in Detroit a Grand Prix just 2 races ago, that Senna did the whole distance without changing tires.
And won the race.
And he said it was because of his active suspension. Maybe it will be the active driver of Piquet that will be able to handle the tire situation here. Only time will tell. But Nigel Mansell on a new set of tires has just set a new fastest lap and a lap record at 1 minute 11.9 seconds, a speed of 148 miles an hour. So he's piling on the pressure here. Pressure, of course, and Greg Norman is still in the booth with us here. Pressure in your business, Greg, must be enormous, and you've had it in these tournaments where you had a period there where you were constantly a bridesmaid being done by people chipping in and coming out of bunkers. What does pressure do to a golfer?
Well, I think, Jackie, it's just the change of your body system. You know, when these guys drive, and I'm sure you experienced it, was the adrenaline. The rush of adrenaline is the greatest thrill of any sportsman. And when you're in control of a situation, you have the opportunity of winning a golf tournament or a motor car race. There's nothing better in the world, and the pressure is you just believe in yourself. You've got the ability, you've practiced before, you've raced hard before, and you just have the confidence in your knowledge and in your physical and mental ability to go ahead and win.
Well, that's what Piquet is looking for at the present time. We're at the British Grand Prix. Nelson Piquet is leading. The British and Nigel Mansell is still in second place. Perfect weather, and we'll be back.
Trying to make the cars as light as possible. This is the single biggest piece of not fiberglass but carbon fiber coming off of the Lotus car. From nose to tail, one piece. Now you might think it weighs quite a bit. A mere 12 pounds.
We're back live. You were looking there at Nigel Mansell driving the Williams Honda. The two cars prepared by Frank Williams dominating this Grand Prix of Britain. The leader, however, is still Nelson Piquet of Brazil, looking for his first win this year in a World Championship event. There's a number of cars out of the race so far. Let me read them to you. Rene Arnault is out. Ivan Capelli is out. We saw his car catch fire. Philippe Alliot is out. De Cesaris is out, driving the Olivetti Brabham. Nannini is out. And then Gerhard Berger was the first man out through problems in the very first lap. Stefan Johansson, doing well in 6th position, fell out. And the last car that we saw dispatch itself from the race was Cafe in the Minardi, or the Ocello rather. So the Grand Prix still continues in the ideal weather conditions. A very big crowd, I would say more than 100,000 people turning up for this event.
Well over 100,000 people, Jackie. And of course, as you said, it's going out on television all over the world. The first 6 drivers in the British Grand Prix at the moment are Nelson Piquet, followed by Nigel Mansell in second place. After that, we have Ayrton Senna, the other Brazilian, Prost in the Marlboro McLaren, Alboreto in the Ferrari is 5th, and Nakajima is 6th. We talked with Nigel Mansell about the star status that he has here in England, #1 sportsman in England, and how it affects his family. This lovely lady sitting on your lap, are they aware that you are a #1 sportsman, voted #1 sportsman within the British Isles?
I don't know, and I don't really care whether they do or don't. I mean, I'm a normal father to normal children. She's only just, she'll be 5 next month, and my son's 2.5. I think the main thing is you love them and treat them like we treat all children around the world. But I think they do think that there is something a bit special sometimes when so many people crowd around you with cameras and wanting to speak to you all the time.
Well, there was a very modest Nigel Mansell. I have 2 children. In fact, I've got my son Mark. He's no longer a baby, unfortunately. He's 19. He's here this weekend. He's always been around racetracks, and I can remember when they were just toddlers, them looking up at all these hordes of people asking for autographs and being very put off with the whole idea.
Well, Jackie, your other son, Paul, is also starting a racing career and did very well last weekend with the fastest lap, finished 2nd and 3rd in a very competitive Formula Ford 1600.
Yeah, they're doing well. There's the Williams pit there as we're looking at that at the present time, and they're, of course, keeping an... It seems that a lap has been put on to Michele Alboreto. It looks like he's been lapped, and Michele Alboreto is in 5th position. So there's something for the books. That just shows you the pace of these enormously powerful cars, of these Honda engine Cannon Williams.
Well, I think we've had the lap record broken here. I've counted 7 times, and I'm not sure if I got them all. The first lap record was 144 miles an hour. Now, of course, as the fuel load gets lighter, as we have Christian Danner coming in the pits with the Zach Speed, sponsored by West Cigarettes. But what I was trying to refer to is that the first track record was at 144 miles an hour, and the last one was 148 miles an hour. That's 4 miles an hour faster than in the earlier stages. Of course, they're not carrying as much weight with the fuel. A little bit of rubber gets down onto the track, and the cars are able to go through the corners a little bit faster. But we have an unofficial report from the pit, somewhat unofficial, that Piquet will try and go the distance on this set of tires. The drama will build. He had a 28.3-second lead after Nigel's pit stop, and that has been cut to 24 seconds. So Nigel is on the move, running for his teammate, who's trying to run all the way on one set of tires.
And there you see Nakajima driving the similarly powered Honda engine, but of course in the Lotus car, as Nigel Mansell goes around there very smoothly, very gently, transmitting all of that power, about 900 horsepower, they say, even in race conditions, using all of the road, diamonding each corner, sweeping through under the Daily Express Bridge, heavy braking now into the left-hander. First gear, accelerating away in 2nd, then into 3rd, then into 4th, then into 5th, and there you see tires okay, lap 22. That's to Ayrton Senna. Oh, that's in fact to Piquet. We'll be back with more information. Bisignano and Jackie Stewart back for the British Grand Prix. Nigel Mansell is still behind the man that you're looking at, and look at the bumps and the jogs. Then Nigel was behind Piquet. Then there is Ayrton Senna. He's lying in 3rd place. A long way behind Ayrton Senna, however, is Alain Prost, and he is not catching Senna. Prost's engine and team have been going through a variety of different problems. The French Grand Prix, they had troubles. In Detroit, they had troubles. In Monte Carlo, they had troubles. They did win the Belgian Grand Prix, but they have been troubling themselves. Incidentally, Nigel Mansell has again done a fastest lap, now averaging 149.8 miles an hour around this Silverstone circuit. Ayrton Senna, very smooth, very clean. He's been having trouble all weekend. He certainly didn't seem to get his active suspension car to handle in the fashion that he would like. It's just not been going fast enough for him. So we've got Piquet, Mansell, Senna, Prost, Alboreto, Nakajima's in 6th, Derek Warwick's in 7th, Eddie Cheever, both of those driving USF and G-Aero cars with the Megatron engine. Then we've got Terry Boutsen with a Ford-engined Benetton with his teammate Theo Fabi in 10th position. That's the first 10. Then the first normally aspirated engine, Philip Streff, is in 11th position. Jonathan Palmer, his teammate, in 12th. 13th is Martin Brundle with Pascal Fabre bringing up the rear at the moment. Quite a few cars dropping out. Only 4 cars on the same lap.
Of course, the other British drivers in this race are that of Derek Warwick and Martin Brundle. They have their fans here. And it'd be very nice to have two British drivers in the points. If Warwick can get one more position up, the points, of course, go down first through sixth. And if Derek Warwick could score his first points here at Silverstone, that would almost be equal to a victory. The USF&G Arrows team, of course, with the most improved team so far this year. They had very good runs in Monaco and Detroit. They didn't finish them, but they were running in third place. As we look at the Zakspeed West team, but it would be excellent to have the Brits do extremely well here, especially after they went down to France and a British driver won the French Grand Prix.
Well, of course, we've got 4 British drivers in this race. Apart from Nigel Mansell, Derek Warwick and Martin Brundle, we also have Jonathan Palmer. So there's a lot to see for this British crowd, and they have turned out in great numbers to come and see it. So far, it's not been a real big tussle for the lead, and it does seem that it's about a 22-second gap between Mansell and Piquet. This is Nigel Mansell that we're looking at, now living in the Isle of Man as a Tex exile.
He really needs to gain a second of the lap. We've got around 20 laps left. He's 22 seconds behind. He's going to have to make one hell of a charge here, Jackie, to get that victory.
He's still doing it because he's just done a lap of 1 minute 10.9 seconds, averaging 150 miles an hour. That's a barrier to break, the first time on this new track. And we'll be back. It happens. The RAC, the Royal Automobile Club, usually do the signage for it. The gates of Stowe School, one of England's best. The hamlets, the cottages, and the villages of rural England. This is what English countryside is all about. People come here for peace and quiet. They ride their horses. The pastures and the dairy farming make up the peaceful solitude that the English countryside is famed for. In England, we have different telephone boxes. Sometimes it rains. The summertime in England, the hay's been cut, it's out to dry. The climate is a little different though. Sometimes it can even have sunshine. In England, agriculture still plays a very big part, but the wheat and the corn is not yet ripe. Another month for that. Britain is also well known for its English country lanes. Solitude and quietness will be ruptured this weekend because we're here, of course, for the Grand Prix of Britain. And Michele Alboreto is coming out of the pits right now. He's just exiting from the pits. He went in for a tire change. While you were away, Nigel Mansell shattered the lap record again. Of course, it was his own lap record. He's got up to 151 miles an hour average, and the difference between he and Nelson Piquet is down to 16.8 seconds. Now, let me just tell you what that means. If Nelson Piquet now comes in to change tires, he cannot hold the lead, because we've seen it before. It takes about 28 seconds for the driver to slow down, have a wheel change, and go back out. So if he's made a tactical error, that is going to be it. So Nigel Mansell could still win this British Grand Prix. Don't you go away from your screens, because there's a lot more excitement still in the air here.
We also had Alboreto in the pits while we were out on that beautiful scenic tour of the lovely British countryside. Of course, this is my second home. I lived in England for 6 years. You're a very good travelogue person, Jackie, but right now there's not. The traveling is being done on the track, and it's by Nelson Piquet going through a horde of black back markers. He really had some traffic to get through there in one of the fastest parts of the circuit. Coming up on Prost. Prost is going to be lap. Prost is in 4th place. These cars, these Canon Williams Hondas, are going to lap everybody on this entire track, something that you did, Jackie, back in 1969 with Jochen Rindt and yourself having that great classical battle. You lapped everyone except yourselves.
Yeah, we had a good run that day. I tell you what, though, while we've been watching this, Mansell has been absolutely burning it up.
Just flying.
He's gained 8 seconds in 6 laps on Nelson Piquet. Part of that has been traffic. Now, he's going to have trouble getting past this man because he can't afford to turn up the boost and get him on the straight too easily. He's trying it there under braking. Yes, wisely Alain Prost lets him through. Prost is intelligent. There's no point in causing a situation. He's lapping the man, so Alain says, okay, through you go.
It's one of the few times we've seen Prost ever lapped, I'll tell you that much.
Well, of course, we had the opportunity to talk to Alain Prost. John Bisignano did it earlier on about the record that he's still chasing to beat my 27 Grand Prix victories. Let's hear what he says.
Getting 4 points per race is not going to break Jackie Stewart's record for champions. It's almost like a jinx. Since you've tied Jackie, there hasn't been a victory in sight.
No, it's, you know, when you have to win a race, you win it. You mustn't be in a hurry, and I know at the moment it's a difficult performance side, but I will win one race very soon. It's no problem.
I must say, we're going to have to watch that. I don't want him winning too many of these darn things. Now here we go. This is Piquet again, getting behind that Streff, and that's Palmer in front of him, it looks like. He's got through.
It's actually Mansell, Jackie, but it's the same traffic that held up Piquet a little bit earlier and allowed Mansell to close right in there. We don't want to say right in there, but certainly within striking range. Now the question is Piquet using up too much fuel, and is Mansell using up too much fuel in this charge? He has set 3-lap records in the last 10 laps, going from 149 miles an hour up to 151 miles an hour. We thought it was absolutely spectacular here a couple years ago when Keke Rosberg did the first 160 mile an hour lap around Silverstone. They try and slow these cars down every single year, and right now Nigel Mansell is only 8.5 seconds slower with this huge chicane in it than Keke Rosberg was a few years ago. 12.8 second distance with only 11 laps to go. So the battle is really going to be extremely tight with this British Grand Prix winding down, but also winding up.
Well, we've got 14 laps still to run in this race, and it could still all happen in that time. That's less than a second a lap, obviously, with a 12.8 second advantage that Piquet has. And of course, he may have a little bit up his sleeve. He has been a very intelligent driver. He has won 2 world championships. He knows the key to the door of success and victory. Of course, Nigel Mansell would love to do it in front of the British crowd. Can you imagine, John, what would happen here if he closed up that close, this close to the end of the race? There would be pandemonium.
It'd be 150,000 screaming Brits, and that's something you don't see too often.
There is the Benetton car of Boutsen, about to be lapped by Nelson Piquet, the man in the lead. Let me just run through the top men for you. Piquet, then comes Mansell, then Senna, then Prost, then Nakajima is 5th. Up into 6th position in the World Championship, the USF&G Arrowman, and incidentally the chairman of Jack Mosley's over here of USF&G watching the race, as is also the president of Mobil. They all come to the important races. In 7th position is Terry Boutsen, 8th is Theo Fabi, then comes Alboreto, then Jonathan Palmer, the first of the normal aspirated engines, with Streff, Fabry and Cheevers had a trouble. He's down into 13th position. There's Nigel Mansell's got this fastest lap again, up to 151.813 miles an hour. Piquet, of course, is being advised of this, not only through the headset in his crash helmet, where he can communicate with his pit both ways, but of course he's got a pit board that can give him information.
Reading a pit board at 140 miles an hour can be a difficult thing. One of the reasons they put in the chicane was supposedly to slow the cars down past this signaling area so that they could actually see the signals from their pit area. It's very important, this two-way communication. The driver has to know what the situation is behind him and in front of him so that he can instantly change his race philosophy and strategy to gain as many positions as possible.
Well, only 3 men on the same lap. The gap is down to 9.693 seconds. The gap between the leader, Nelson Piquet, and Nigel Mansell, as one of the Benetton cars into the pits. Terry Boutsen is in there. You can see him. It looks like a flat tire. I don't know if Walt's close enough to get there. It's a right rear that was flat. That's just a puncture. Type of thing you can pick up anywhere. Ill fortune, if you like. 11.4 seconds on the clock that stop was. So there is Terry Boutsen back out. There is Frank Williams, the mastermind behind the Williams team. Frank Williams, paralyzed from a road accident at the beginning of 1986. We're at Silverstone and we'll be back. We're back in one of the Ferraris, and it can only be Michele Alboreto was in the pits. He's already had a pit stop. The clock is running. We're up past 7 seconds as we go back out to see what the lead's happening. This is a big thing. Nigel Mansell has just broken the lap record again. He's gone round in 1 minute 9 odd seconds, 152 miles an hour, and the gap is down now to 8.281 seconds. Nigel Mansell is pouring on the coals. Walt Stanner, you're in the pits.
Yes, Jackie, they're just turned off the motor in the Ferrari, Alboreto's Ferrari. He's got a broken right rear suspension. It's hard to see what it is, but the under tray's cracked. He's been down on it. It looks pretty much like his day is over. Back up to you guys.
Well, Mr. Ferrari will not be pleased as Alain Prost pulls off the track. Alain Prost's day is over. It's not going to be his 28th Grand Prix. He'll be sad about that. He wasn't going to win this one on his own in any case. To be honest with you, he's beginning to annoy me because he was supposed to win this 28th Grand Prix. I'm not going to the German Grand Prix. I'm not going to the Austrian Grand Prix, and I want to be there when he beats my record.
I'm sure he'll wait for you, Jackie. I mean, if you're good enough friends for you to keep calling him the Little Frog over U.S. television and in public, I'm sure he'll say, I'm not going to break your record until you come back to Hungary will be the next race.
Well, ESPN, of course, will be covering both the German and the Austrian Grand Prix. I'll be back joining the team of John Bisignano and his merry men for the Hungarian Grand Prix, and the gap is now down to 7.53 seconds. The British crowd are beginning to get excited. There's a few people beginning to stand up. My God, they must be excited if they're actually standing up in Britain.
No. But does he have enough fuel, Jackie? That's the thing. This tremendous run with track records every other lap. Does Nigel Mansell have enough fuel to keep the charge on?
ESPN's coverage of the British Grand Prix is being brought to you by Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1 protects your engine better than any conventional motor oil. And by Acura, Legend and Integra, precision-crafted automobiles exclusively at your Acura dealer. The scene from above, the grandstands filled, the car parks overflowing, and the racetrack very busy. The difference between these two drivers, a fraction over 6 seconds now, as Britisher Nigel Mansell pulls on the power. We look in our stopwatch unofficially as 3.9 seconds. 3.9 seconds indeed.
No. Nigel Mansell was able to talk about a British Open.
Yeah, as I said, he's coming to watch me race this weekend. He's down this week because obviously it's the week before the British Open, and he's coming here tomorrow as our guest, so we shall have a fun time. Talk about golf, forget about motor racing.
Well, Greg Norman, of course, was in our booth here in our ESPN coverage of this race. He's gone back over to be in Nigel's pit because it's getting so exciting he feels as if he wants to be there. So the British Open, of course, is coming up on ESPN. Let me just tell you about that for a minute. Of course, it's going to be at Muirfield in Scotland. It's golf's premier international event. The first round is on Thursday, 16th of July, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, 6 a.m. Pacific Time. It's live, as I said. The second round will be on Friday the 17th, 9 a.m. again Eastern and 6 Pacific. And of course, in my country, in Scotland, the British Open has always been known for its rotation of very difficult courses, showcasing the links atmosphere where, of course, golf began. Last year, the man who was in this booth, Greg Norman, finally overcame that sort of one-stroke jinx that has jinxed him all this time, and of course, he's now a major man in the golf world. He'll be trying to, of course, repeat his Turnberry victory, and that, of course, also was in Scotland. This year he's just as hot, and they'll be challenging the best golfers in the world in the championship that was also going on forever. It's a long-living championship, the British Open.
Jackie, Nelson Piquet has just lapped the third-place man, Ayrton Senna, and that man right there, the man on the charge, Nigel Mansell, has Senna in his sights. There's a tremendous competition between these two. Nigel Mansell just set another fastest lap at 1:53. Will Senna hold up Mansell? That great competition between those two. We'll have the answer to that question right after this message.
Well, you're looking at something right here. Nigel Mansell has tucked himself in behind here. He's getting past then. He's going to pass both Lotuses, and he's now very much in sight of Piquet, his own teammate. The gap is down below 2 seconds. Piquet, you can see the third car. That car on your screen is Nigel Mansell. He's really got the power on. The British crowd beginning to react, beginning to wave. We've not got very many laps to go. We've only got 6 laps after they cross the finishing line at this time. The difference officially on the last lap was 2.1 seconds of difference. We're looking from our commentary position.
I'll tell you, Jackie, I think he's going to do it. I'll go out on a limb, not much of a limb at the moment, because Piquet's tires are certainly being eaten up these last few laps, trying to stay out there in that lead. Mansell, and the difference is now down to 1.6. You can see them in the same shot now. Remember, Piquet on old tires, Mansell came in and changed those tires. It took him some 24 seconds out of the race to do it, but on that fresh rubber, he's been able to make all that up, or at least everything but the last 1.6 seconds to make up. And there they are, the 2 Honda Williams who have dominated this Grand Prix. They have passed every other car on the entire circuit, put everyone a lap down. Now it's just down to these 2 teammates. The competition's so fierce, not only for number 1 in the world, but for number 1 within the Honda Williams team. They are going to just be at it right to the very, very end, Jackie. But does this man have enough fuel to do it?
I think that Nigel Mansell, unless it's a fuel question, cannot avoid winning this race, simply on the basis of the tyre factor. The tyres in his car have just got those extra laps in hand. It must be right for him to eat Nigel, and he'll try to do that. Nigel's going to put it on in front of this crowd. The crowd are now standing. The crowd are cheering. Everybody's on him, and I don't think we can expect to see anything else. It's now down to 0.8 of a second, and there is Greg Norman, who was with it just a few moments ago. He's gone back over to be with Frank Williams. He's going to be a happy man. I think the Great White Shark is ready to be the biggest cheerleader in this business right now.
Mansell's got him in reach.
And look at the flags.
He's got him in reach.
He's going to do it. He's going to do it. What a great win this will be for him. Back-to-back British Grand Prix. It's not finished yet, folks. Remember the fuel factor. And he's going to get him on the exit of corners, because that's where the tires are going to show up.
Let's just quickly give you the first 6 before this battle goes any deeper. We have Piquet first, Mansell second, of course. Senna is third. Nakajima from Japan is fourth. Warwick, also a Brit, is fifth. And Fabi is sixth.
Well, we're now down to 5 laps. 5 laps from here. This is going to be amazing. What do you think Nelson Piquet is thinking right now in front of this crowd? Has to be, because we may well be seeing a change of lead right now. This is the ultimate stocking situation. Remember, before the beginning of this race, there was a suggestion that there was not particularly good feeling between these drivers. Hotly competitive, and Nigel Mansell's really got it linked. He's going to slipstream him right now. He's gone. He's gone. He's done it. And no, Piquet let him go. No, he didn't. He tried to shut the door. They even kissed wheels on the way past there. Look at those crowds. Nigel Mansell, the Union Jack, flying proudly. That was not an easy pass. Nigel really doubled. Oh, and Nigel's got it now, and Piquet's getting a little bit loose there. The crowd are cheering. We can hear them from our position here. And he's just ripping off now. He's just taken a commanding lead. Nigel Mansell. And you'll see the crowd going wild there with the Union Jacks. Mansell takes the lead. Greg Norman's, he's as excited as anybody else as they come around here. And the crowd are standing, clapping, cheering, waving. Piquet's in second place. In front of a British crowd, here's a replay of the pass. He double takes him. He goes one side. Piquet closes it. He passes on the other. Now watch this. The cars, I think, come together. Piquet tries to close, then he sees him. Look at that rear and front wheel. It seemed almost as if they touched. Certainly Nigel was very forceful there. He certainly did not give Piquet a second chance. He did not do it over aggressively, in my opinion. He did it correctly. He did it in the right line. He just did it with authority. Nelson Piquet, still hungry. We haven't got many laps to go right now. We've only got 1 lap to go after this. The timing has been impeccable. His timing to go in for the pass was correct. The Japanese flag is flying high with the Union Jack.
Hands across Asia. I think Japan and Great Britain Martin are going to have a closer relationship than they have ever had. A white flag being shown, but that's no problem whatsoever to Nigel Mansell here in front of some 150,000 of his fans. Everyone jumping up and down and cheering. This is a great day for the British people, the British drivers, as Nigel Mansell is coming across the start-finish line for his last time down this straightaway. Everyone on their feet, of course. It's a little bit unusual to see the Brits this excited, but boy, they have reason to be so this afternoon. This man has won the last 2 Formula One events on the British soil. His first victory ever was on British soil, and now to win the British Grand Prix and to gain those valuable points in the World Championship.
That first victory was the European Grand Prix that took place at Brands Hatch. Now, of course, last year he won the British Grand Prix again at Brands Hatch. Now he comes to Silverstone, where it looks like now, even if he cut the engine and coasted in, I think he's got a big enough cushion, although it's not so far away. He goes round Club Corner. This is the third last corner to go. Then he goes through Abbey Curve. This is 6th gear, flat, doing speeds of about 104 miles an hour. He's now approaching the chicane, heavy braking from 6th gear down into 1st gear, accelerating now. Fuel surge could occur, but it's free for him. He's done it. He's done it. The man with the checkered flag is out there. Is he going to get it? He's got the checkered flag. Nigel Mansell of Britain. The crowd are cheering. The flags are waving. The Williams engineers, Patrick Head, Alan Chalice is there. There is the checkered flag. Nelson Piquet takes 2nd place. Ayrton Senna comes through into 3rd place. In 4th place will be Nakajima from Japan, picking up 3 championship points. The Union Jack being held high there.
Look at Mansell waving to his fans. Some 150,000 Brits around this circuit in the British sunshine. The clouds being warded off here, waving both arms.
It's a sort of copy of 12 months ago at the British Grand Prix when Piquet and Mansell again had this great contretemps. Alan Chalice on the right. All of these people, about 30 of them, come to every Grand Prix to look after their drivers, and when their driver wins, it's something special, particularly when it's in front of a British crowd. Happy man Nigel, family here, wife here. Alan Chalice, he's the mechanic that used to mechanic for me with Graham Hill. Graham Hill's son, incidentally, Damon Hill's in the pits today, as also is Jack Brabham's son. He's here too. They're racing in the Formula 3 race along with James Hunt's brother. Look at this. He's trying to get back. He's run out of fuel. He's out of fuel. That's Nigel Mansell. Now, there is something. He has run out of fuel, and Senna is there, maybe to help him.
Maybe to give him a ride. No?
No, he's gone off. But Nigel, the crowds are coming over to meet him. The crowds are jubilant. He's out the car. He's undone his seatbelt. He's going to get out.
This is a scene from Monza, not Silverstone.
The British are getting hot under the collar. Look at the car coming to a stop. They've got to get back. There's cars still on the racetrack, although they'll be going very quietly. So there it goes. The World Championship point standing, incidentally, while all this crazy scene is taking place. It could be Italy. They're going to be, and incidentally, this car has still got to be scrutineered. This car has got to be looked at the officials. This could be a problem, because if the car is illegal in any way, those people could bend a wing, change the aerodynamic shape of the car because of their enthusiasm. They're not doing it for any ulterior motive. And there he is, right in the center. It's like the eye of the tornado. Look at people coming from all over the place. The British do become excited. Nigel Mansell takes up 2nd position, only 1 point behind Ayrton Senna, who is now leading the World Championship, and we will give you the World Championship standings for the drivers and for the constructors as other race cars weave their way through. And there you see the officials being concerned. That's Nelson Piquet getting out of his car, and that is in the scrutineering bay, the compound that is isolated by everybody.
But that demonstrates how important it is to keep people back from the car, where this car is totally isolated. Well, not a single thing could be touched, but Mansell is being overwhelmed. Walt, what's the story?
Well, Walt's down in the pits. Are you there, Walt? Can you hear us? Well, John Korsmith, who's the official for the FIA, as we look from our helicopter shot, an amazing scene, and now a vehicle, one of the rescue vehicles, has come alongside to tow the car back. They don't want to be accused in any way of anything there.
You can see the marshal waving everyone back, trying to explain the situation to them. Of course, the Brits are so polite that they actually, if this was Italy, pieces of that car would be being ripped off and taken home for a place of honor over the mantle, but as we can see, there is absolutely no one touching the car. They were just so happy for Nigel Mansell to win the British Grand Prix. They could not actually control themselves.
Well, the World Championship of Constructors we're going to give you later, but of course this win of Williams here puts them further in the lead. They're very high in the point standings. There you see Nelson Piquet being walked back to the winner's rostrum. It will take some time, and that's Jimmy Brown. No, it's not Jimmy Brown. It's one of the officials here at the British Racing Drivers Club.
Someone who looks like Jimmy Brown.
That's right, as Piquet walks back there. Walt Stanner's down in the pits.
But I didn't even think about a 1-2 at British Grand Prix. This was fantastic. It reflects extremely well on the team and on Honda.
Who do you root for when you've got your two drivers out there and you've got one guy catching the other one?
That's a question I'll never answer to anybody.
The tire stop for Nigel, was that a strategy stop or was that a necessary stop?
It was necessary. We hoped that he wouldn't have to stop, but he reported on the radio. The car was sliding around a lot, so he elected to come in, and it worked out the best thing for him.
What do you do for an encore?
Just try and keep winning again. It changes every race, so you can't be sure you're going to do that.
Thank you very much, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, a very strong Frank Williams, who came close to death on 3 separate occasions following his tragic accident in a road car in the south of France. The rescue vehicle coming now is with Nigel Mansell waving out of the passenger window to all his fans. It's ESPN at the British Grand Prix. We'll be back for a lot more. Well, we're still at the British Grand Prix. The winner's rostrum area is still awaiting the winner. While we're waiting for Nigel Mansell to be driven around this circuit from where his car ran out of petrol, it would seem, on that cooling down lap, our man, Walt Stanner.
Okay, Derek Warwick, last week when we talked, you had unmentionable words. What would you say about the drive today?
Well, you know, I'm quite pleased, really. We had a bad weekend. We got completely lost on the setup of the car. And 5th place in the race is obviously a great bonus. You know, the lads have worked hard. It's my first points finish for the team. And, you know, I just feel very delighted with the way AI drove and the way the car performed. You know, the USF&G Arrows just was superb today.
You didn't miss a beat, or did you have any anxious moments?
No, I didn't miss a beat. I had a little problem with traffic at the start when I was trying to break away from Eddie. But then I could just pull away at ease. So, you know, I was very happy.
Well, you had a coming together with Gerhard Berger at some point there on that first lap, but it apparently didn't create any problems for you?
Well, Gerhard tried to come up on the inside going into Beckett's, and I was already committed to the corner, so Gerhard locked up and just slid a bit wide, but there was no problem. And then about 3 laps later, he lost it going through Abbey, right in front of me, and just hit the barrier. He was lucky.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Okay, thank you.
Well, a very descriptive phrase by Derek Warwick about the accident involving Berger. Abbey Curve is the fastest corner on the track, taken in 6th gear at a speed of about 190 miles an hour. And there is Nigel Mansell being... Oh, and he's very strong about it. He's very strong about it indeed. Very happy indeed. Well, Nigel Mansell being brought back to the compound to be able to be taken up. And there you see it.
What a great scene for a great individual and a great sportsman.
Nigel Mansell finally brings himself with a very, very gentlemanly behavior of Nelson Piquet, also applauding the efforts of Nigel Mansell.
And Ayrton Senna.
Ayrton Senna also. His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent standing there on the sidelines as God Save the Queen is played. The national anthem of this country.
You don't have to stand up, Jackie. You can sit back down.
A great feeling for any driver to have his own national anthem played for his own Grand Prix. We're coming back from... A jubilant crowd has collected around the podium here as Nigel Mansell holds up this crystal goblet that's been just presented to him by His Royal Highness Prince Michael of Kent. He now gets the bottles of champagne and he gives everybody a hard time. All the drivers being very jubilant, very full of energy, the adrenaline pumping and the fun starting. There'll be a lot more champagne consumed tonight, I think, than might be spilled. Nigel Mansell's many friends have come from the Isle of Man, from Birmingham. His family are here. Greg Norman is here, his great pal. And of course, this is a fantastically successful victory, not only for Nigel Mansell, but for the Williams team. Because, my goodness, have they done well. First and second in this race. So it's been a great British Grand Prix. We see Nigel now getting a wee rest. This British Grand Prix, of course, has been a great success. The weather stayed dry. John Bisignano, good race, John.
It's fantastic. Fantastic race, fantastic win for a fine gentleman who deserved the World Championship last year. Again, the Honda-powered Williams showing their superiority. We're going off to another fast track in Hockenheim in 2 weeks' time, and I think they're going to be just as dominant. Of course, Lotus will keep working on that active suspension, and I think we should just quickly give you the very top 6 here at Silverstone. Senna. We have, of course, Mansell winning the race, Piquet second, Senna third, Nakajima fourth, and Derek Warwick in 5th place, the other Brit, and Fabi driving the Benetton Ford coming in 6th with that 1 point for 6th place.
Well, that was pretty impressive. Terry Boutsen finishes 7th, Jonathan Palmer 8th, and Fabre is 9th. What a great British Grand Prix. Senna's with the World Championship lead with 31 points. Mansell is second with 30 points, as also is Nelson Piquet. Alain Prost now drops down to 4th place with 26 points, but that's all very close. Then an enormous drop back to Johansson with 13 points in total. And much celebration still goes on as the gold trophy of the British Grand Prix is kept by the official of the RAC